Also, Brent talked about he mentioned Adrian Peterson as a just add water kind of player, and
So great.
he made that example as like when you get a brownie mix, all you have to do is just add water to it, and then it's good to go. He made that comparison as players, like with some players show up to OU, all you got to do is just add water to them, they're good to go. Like Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson showed up as a freshman, ready to be the best running back in the country. Go ahead, Mark.
He said that in contrast to some players who you need to water like bamboo, who yes. They need the development, right? They show up on campus and they're not quite ready. I just want to point out
the you're right, and he made the example of Vic Beasley. Correct? Was that who he said?
Yes.
Vic Beasley at Clemson Beasley was a guy. Needed 2 years to sit before he was ready to become an All-American and break Clemson sack records.
Right. So, he was playing other positions. He needed time to get right.
You're right. Thank you for making that point. So I thought it'd be fun, guys, for us to pick our just add water players of the century for OU, and that's the 21st century. So I started and I picked Orlando Brown Jr. as my guy. Patrick went ahead and took Joe Mixon. Mark said Samaje Perine. Matt said AD, Mr. All Day, Adrian Peterson, agreeing with BV. And Ryan has Kyler Murray. He has AD, but Kyler Murray as a close second. We're not going to pick the same guy. So you're going with Kyler Murray. Who has any objections to the list? Because I know some people do.
I have an objection.
I want to hear it, Pat.
With Kyler Murray.
Tell me.
Right. Because Kyler Murray had a year or so, I think a year under his belt at A&M, 2 years at A&M. So he...
No,
1 year.
Okay,
sorry, you held up at number 2, so I got
You're
self-conscious.
Right. You're right.
1 year at A&M to play college football. So when he came into the program, he had some experience, and then A&M messed everything up with Kyler Murray, and then he came to the University of Oklahoma. So I don't know if he was just add water. He was like, but at the same time, like obviously he was very naturally gifted.
I mean, the only reason that he didn't start for OU when he came in is because we had Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that he wasn't a just add water guy because he already had a year under his belt in college football.
I get what
That's
you're saying,
my
Pat.
contention too. Is he had a year under his belt at A&M where he threw 5 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, and then he came to OU and had a year with the quarterback guru Lincoln Riley before he ever stepped on the field.
But he wasn't
I don't think that's a just add water guy.
Well, okay, so then are we counting out anybody who sat behind a position?
Like, let's talk about my guy.
Like
I'm about to count out Joe Mixon for the same reason.
So the way that I took what BV was saying is not necessarily like, I personally don't think Kyler Murray probably needed the year behind Baker, but he did because Baker was here and he wanted to be here with our old coach, Lincoln Riley. I don't think he necessarily needed it. Kyler Murray is one of the most talented, probably the most talented person I've ever seen play at OU. And I think that means just add water. Like, that's the way that I took it. AD is an absolute freak. And he started, yes. And he's also probably the most talented running back we've ever seen at OU, obviously is. But he started because there wasn't as much competition. I mean, like, I think
started because it's Adrian Peterson.
Well, but you can't, like, what I'm trying to say is Kyler Murray is so talented that I think you could have put him anywhere and he would have been fine.
Matt, do you have any objections?
Not necessarily objections. I would just agree with Tyson. He's the most decorated high school football quarterback coming out of Texas, which is probably one of the most competitive states. I mean, the guy did not lose. He went 57-0 and won 3 state titles and one of the hardest places to do it. So he definitely has the decorations and the accolades coming out of high school, because that's what we're looking at. If you're that good in high school, you should be able to ease on into it. Now, A&M had a different system, had Kevin Sutherland as his head coach. I give him a little bit of reprieve there. Came to OU, sat back behind one of the best college football quarterbacks in Baker Mayfield. I get it. Listen, it's hard. Now, I do want to give some just great stats on my boy AD, because I have to agree with BV here. I don't know if you guys know what his freshman
I
stats
think we
are.
should do a poll and not put Matt's answer on the poll because he's just saying what
So
Venables
I would
said.
like everyone to know in the outline, which I wrote down my answer before Gan did. I say BV is right. It's AD because yes, he is the best example of just add water.
Right. And
But
I think,
then I have my second one.
Tell us why, Matt. Tell us why.
yeah.
Go
and
off, King.
Listen, I think mine was just more about, I just want to see how ridiculous Adrian Peterson was. So in 2004, his freshman year, his total attempts were 339 for 1925. That is an average carry of 5.7 and 15 total touchdowns. That is absolutely bonkers. His first game against Texas, 32 carries, 225 yards. Big 12 championship against Colorado, 28 carries, 172, 3 touchdowns. Insane. I mean, he was a man amongst boys. Now, that year was when we went to the Orange Bowl against Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush, and we got totally killed 55-19, but we don't talk about that. But going on to his sophomore, junior year, still having great years there, obviously getting drafted 7th to the Vikings.
Skull.
Still, yeah, Hall of Fame career, and the man is still playing 15 years later. He's still in the league. I don't know if he'll get picked up this year, but the fact that he was playing in 2021 and still scoring touchdowns, I mean, the man's incredible, both college and professional.
I like what you brought to the table there. I agree with you, and I don't think anyone can disagree with that because he is AD and he is Adrian Peterson, and he's arguably the greatest running back in Oklahoma history. But for me, I kind of went a little off the beaten path because people don't really think of offensive linemen that much. You think of the names you hear a lot and the players who get to touch the ball. But really, for me, Orlando Brown Jr. was a freak of nature. He started 40 games. He was a first-team All-American in 2017, second-team All-American in 2016. And as a freshman, he was a freshman All-American in 2015. Two-time Big 12 Offensive Lineman of the Year. I think Orlando Brown Jr. just doesn't get enough credit. I think he's great. He's having a great career in the NFL right now. The Ravens got a steal with him after that whole nonsense in the combine his year about how he wasn't strong or couldn't do anything, like stupid. So the Ravens took him, had a great career with the Ravens. Now he's with the Chiefs, played fantastic for the Chiefs, was a Pro Bowler this year. I really like Orlando Brown Jr. That's kind of my guy. Also, folks, we want to know what you think. Who is your just add water player of the century for the University of Oklahoma? Let us know on our Twitter page at the program. What did I say?
Mark, he hasn't been able to talk about.
I'm just not done.
We're not. No. We're not done.
Okay.
I'm plugging the socials. I need it because I
Plug the
forgot to do
socials,
it.
baby.
I forgot to do it at the beginning, so I want to make sure I get it in.
Please.
I told myself after each segment, I was like, all right, plug it after this. All right, plug it after this. All right, plug. So now I just remembered. But we're coming back to Mark. Remember to follow us on social media at the Program Guyz with a Z on Twitter, at Program Guyz with a Z on Instagram. Be sure to shout us out on our YouTube channel, comment on our videos. Guys, we're over 200 subscribers. Big shout out to you guys for subscribing to the pod. Really appreciate that. Be sure to follow, subscribe, follow, all that stuff on YouTube as well. Also, give us a 5-star review on Spotify if you got the chance. That's huge for us as well. Mark, take it away.
Samaj P. Ryan is the answer if
He's a
you
freak.
cannot choose Adrian Peterson for this question. Dude came in as a 4-star running back from Pflugerville, Texas, and in 13 games, 263 carries, the most in the Big 12 that year, for 1,713 yards, the most in the Big 12 that year, giving him a 6.5 yard average, third in the Big 12 that year, 21 touchdowns, first in the Big 12, 8th in college football, and his yards from scrimmage of 1,821 was also number 1 in the Big 12. Dude came into college football ready-made and had his best year as a Sooner as a freshman and carried an offense that was helmed by Trevor Knight post-Sugar Bowl. Not the best. His coming out party against West Virginia is truly a where were you when this happened moment for Sooner
I was there.
fans. Oh
was
my
sick.
gosh, man. Yes,
was
you know
sick.
what I mean then.
Yeah.
In a loud and packed house in Morgantown, because we know they get rowdy at West Virginia. They just do. Those guys, they know how to
Yeah, they
cheer
burn
their team on.
couches.
They burn couches.
They burn
Thank you,
couches.
Matt. That's right.
They burn couches. Playing in place of sophomore Keith Ford, Samaje Perine breaks out for 34 carries, 242 yards, and 4 touchdowns. If that was his coming out party, Kansas in the same season was his I'm sticking around notice. In a monsoon that had OU complete only 3 passes the entire game, Perine took up the charge with 427 yards on 34 carries and 5 touchdowns, breaking the all-time single game rushing record in college football, a record that stands to this day. Ultimately, between all of our guys, Orlando Brown's great. I have nothing to say against Orlando Brown. Joe Mixon's in the same class as Samaje Perine and has another year in the same offense working with Jerry Schmidt as his strength and conditioning coach. He got plenty of water. Kyler Murray worked with 2 different coaching staffs for 2 years before he had his 2018 amazing Heisman season. And Adrian Peterson, but Samaje Perine is your just add water guy.
So
Mark,
I agree with you, everything you just said. But one thing I do want to say is Perine declined every year after that. He was still great. I still love him.
and
Don't get me wrong.
I think you're right. And I think the reason why he declined was because Joe Mixon came into the picture and
Joe Mixon never had a year as productive as Samaje Perine's freshman season was.
Yeah.
Correct. I get what you're saying. No, I get what you're saying.
I think I'm taking like the just add water maybe thing differently.
I mean,
I just look at it like from a pure like talent perspective.
It's all interpretive. It's all up to whatever. Pat,
but yes, I agree everything Mark.
Pat, real quick, give me your Joe Mixon spiel. Let's hear.
No,
it.
I just feel like Samaje, he didn't start right away. So I don't know if he was just add water guy because Keith Ford was still our guy till the West Virginia game. West Virginia was not our first game that year. So if he was just an add water guy, he wasn't it from the beginning. And then secondly,
Adrian Peterson didn't start his first game and
okay, that's fine. And
this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
though.
it's like it's interpretation. And secondly, if Joe Mixon hadn't sat out that year, I think he still would have been as productive and as great as he was for the University of Oklahoma, just coming out as a 5-star. Like he had everything we needed. And if he did, I don't think Samaje would have been like, I think Samaje may have even transferred. Like, I don't know, because Mixon would have beat him out.
Maybe, but I guess Joe Mixon should have
all right,
taken care of business and played that season. And Samaje Perine just took advantage of an opportunity that was given to him.
Sure.